All right. I am live. Publish now. Live by myself, I think. Probably. Okay. Some people should be joining me shortly. So it's just live over on the main channel. That's where I'm running 10, 12, 13 minutes late on here. Just did. Got started on that one a little bit later than I was hoping to. And then it's tough when you got all these questions coming in. I hate to cut off live streams go by so fast for me. They just when I'm answering questions and I talk so long winded on everything and it's question to question, so it just goes by so fast. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm over time, but I want to keep answering. I want to get to everybody's questions. So that happens quite a bit for me. Caleb, Habarik, yo, Jace, hello. Ifaz Masala. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. That's a tough one. Hey, David Patterson. Hey, Majestic Demon. Hello, Sean. Good to see you again. Good to see you too. DMC. Jonas Diaz. Hey. Film Frenzy. Bye. Well, that was quick. I just lost someone. Is this my main one? People are saying that this is on. I think some people found the Patreon chat, which would be interesting. There's someone saying this is supposed to be on Patreon. So some people found the secret link to it. So they don't realize that they're all actually on YouTube, just unlisted. So, well, as long as it's not getting overcrowded, I don't really care if extra people are in here. Trace Aaliyah. Actually, we'll see what happens. Trace Aaliyah, what's your favorite Coen Brothers film? Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? This is one of those formative movies for me that I got into. Came out right when I was getting into movies. And just some great music, sharp sense of humor, quirky, fun characters, the right movie at the right point in time. It's based off the Odyssey, so it's just a real odd little film that I really enjoyed. David Patterson, this quarantine is allowing me to rewatch all the Toy Story movies. Very well. That's why you're going from Tarantino to Toy Story. That is quite the transition. Rich reviews. So if the virus manages to clear up by early June, when do you think theaters can reopen? When do I think theaters will reopen? I mean, it's all speculation. There's a lot that goes into it. So, I mean, I think they'll reopen. Um, they'll reopen as soon as people are able to. They can. So, if it clears up and the government stops shutting things down in May, they'll reopen in May. So, but what will that look like? Will they still have a bunch of rules as to what they can and can't do? Probably. So, I don't know. I don't. It's just too speculative, I think, to know too much about what that would look like. Damon, hello, King. Hello. Jackson, Carol Baskin for the next MCU villain. I don't know who that is, so I can't say that I want that. DMC, how do you get to watch the Ewok adventure movies? I don't know. Like you can find DVD copies of them. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you right now. I mean, I haven't watched them in a few years, so I don't remember the different ways that I've tracked them down or watched them. But I couldn't tell you. You just try and find a DVD copy. I doubt they're on Blu-ray. David Patterson, I gave Pulp Fiction a 100%. Very cool. I'm not surprised you enjoyed it. JAAX, sup man. Sup to you too. Ifan Mazala, you're on YouTube. I think you've already told me that. I already talked about it. I don't really care. These are always on YouTube. They're always on there. That's how I stream them. Patreon doesn't actually have a built-in function, so it's just an unlisted stream. So if a handful of people crack the code and get to join in, that's my gift to you. I'm not looking to boot people or anything like that. The only thing I'd be worried about is if the patrons weren't able to ask their questions. But if a few extra people found the code to get in here, cool. And we have 26 people watching, which for this Patreon ones would be the largest one we've ever had. So, but yeah, that's fine if people are in here. I don't mind. Majestic Demon, I doubt this will ever happen, but if Marvel announced they were going to remake Daredevil with Charlie Cox returning to play the character, would you be interested in that? Um, I'd be interested in more Charlie Cox's Daredevil. I would be interested in, I'd be okay with him being in the MCU, really in the MCU, not just like, we're in the MCU, wink, wink. That they're, pretend in the MCU, which is what Marvel Netflix is. If they officially decided, let's like just bring that in, and they brought him over and they officially said all that stuff, that is Vincent D'Onofrio is our Kingpin, I'd be okay with that. I think it's you can run into a lot of problems because there's such tonal differences to how do you bridge that gap. But they've done some of that stuff before tweaking. It's not like Thor Ragnarok matches the tone of Thor 1. So they've always kind of had some tweaks. So I'll just say, yeah, I'd be cool with that. I'd be game. DMC, you don't need to ask the same question over and over again. You do not need to do that on here. I'll get to all the questions. I go through them in order. So if I don't answer your question, don't repeat it. If I move past it, if I answer other people's questions that were after yours, then you can repeat it because I missed it. But if you're just asking it repeated times, don't do that. Film Frenzy, would you ever consider ranking the Stanley Kubrick movies? Probably not. People ask me about it all the time. There's a couple. First off, I've openly stated I'm not a big Kubrick guy. I'm not the right person for it. You wouldn't enjoy my ranking. So that's problem number one, because I'm just not. I don't get it. My brain's not wired like that, which I say all the time when I talk about Kubrick. But the other one is that people forget that he did stuff besides 2001, The Shining, and Eyes Wide Shut. They remember everything after 2001. They even forget that he did Spartacus, and that's half of his filmography that they forget about. And so it's a list where very few of my viewers have watched all The Killing from 1955. And that's when I make a ranking, I want everyone to be able to join in. And the people that watch my channel are people that like Marvel movies and big franchises today, not stuff from a guy that died 20 years ago that are artistic films that I don't really talk about on my channel. So, it might happen at some point in time, or maybe I would do like the ranking is top 5 ones, the ones that people have actually watched or something like that, just because people want me to talk about them. But that's what's always the case with stuff like that. Caleb Howrek, how do you plan out a movie pitch? How do I plan out a movie pitch? I just normally think about what's the themes or the arcs that are interesting to me that they haven't really done yet, or what's the angle on something that I could get excited about. So like when I pitched a Sam Raimi Spider-Man 4, the interesting idea to me is a Spider-Man that's in his mid-40s that has kids, and he's a different phase of life. That's an idea that's interesting to me. And what would the world look like when in that space? Some of them are tricky. Like Patreon request for the month is to do pitch my Spider-Man 3 after Far From Home. That's been really tough for me because there's not exactly an idea inside of that I'm excited about. So I'm still looking to find what the idea is. But you just find that thing that you enjoy, and then you figure out how do you create the conflict that leads to all of that, and you just brainstorm a bunch of ideas and then kind of map it out. But there's no simple answer to how do you come up with a story. Oh man, there's so many questions and some of them are so long. Holly Johnson, when are you going to interview John Flickinger? Ask him about the arm wrestling fight. Monday, I'm going to interview John Flickinger. That's not a joke. I'm interviewing him on Monday. I'm having him on my podcast Monday. That's scheduled. He's told me yes. Got all the details worked out. Everything. So Monday. Rich Reviews. What do you think the virus will alter the landscape of theaters? Do you think AMC Cinemark can survive this? Because there's always going to be demand for theaters. It's not like movie theaters are suddenly not going to have demand. And so, as long as the government just, if you get to the point in time where theaters just all kind of collapse and can't survive this, we're talking about a different America because a whole lot of things are collapsing at that point in time. So, when we get out, people are going to want to go out to the movies. There's going to be a more condensed section of big hit films. And the community, people are going to want to spend time around each other. So I actually think things could work. David Patterson, if New Mutants ever comes out, are you going to re-rank the X-Men movies? I think so. I think I would do one. It's a little bit tough because I don't know how X-Men that movie's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be... I don't know if it's going to be, like how Marvel Netflix is MCU wink wink, or if it's going to be obvious connections. And so I don't know if it'll fit. I don't know how much sense it'll make to rank it with them. So I have it marked down to rank them one final time, but I'm not sure. But actually, I'll just say it's like 80% yes, 80% yes, very likely. Jace, what is your favorite Twilight Zone episode? The one with the glasses. Too much time with Burgess Meredith. It's kind of the obvious one. My wife watches the William Shatner one, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, all the time. She has friends every time one of our friends comes back from college, rewatch it. Jax, have you ever seen any Charlie Kaufman flicks? Yeah, I saw all of his early movies, being John Malkovich, adaptation, all the ones that he was doing early zeros. I haven't watched his stuff in like the last 10 years, I don't think. But yeah, I watched a number of his ones. Actually, I don't know. Did he just write the scripts on those, or did Spike Jonze direct it? I don't remember. It's been a while. Avzala Mahala, have you seen the new Arrowverse seasons, and are you going to rank them and review them? I watched Arrow, obviously, because I reviewed it, and I ranked the seasons of Arrow, so that's, of course. Flash, I'm behind on. I should finish it by the end of the season, and I'll rank those again, I'm pretty sure. I'm not watching Supergirl anymore, and I'm not trying to watch the other ones anymore. I wouldn't. I would just, from now on, it's probably just going to be Flash videos. I'm done doing Arrowverse's homework. I'm just really feeling burned on it, and I don't want to put out videos where I'm just trashing something. I'm not interested in doing that, or pretending I'm excited about something I'm not. And that's what I would be doing with Supergirl, Batwoman. So, Matt G, can you still get Taco Bell drive-through? I'm pretty sure. We haven't been to Taco Bell since everything locked down, but we've been to other places in town to get drive-through. So I would assume I can still get Taco Bell if I need to. Demon, speaking of Tarantino, it took me about a month or so to finish watching Django Unchained. I would not recommend doing that. I would watch it much quicker than that. Jail Productions, hello Sean, just became a patron, love your videos, awesome. Thank you, thanks so much for the super chat today, and thank you so much for joining on here. We do this every Saturday, 2 o'clock. They go for about an hour, and I can answer everybody's questions. It's pretty cool. So thank you for joining over here, and hope you enjoy the exclusive content and everything. Try to make it more personal. Because I get to know people on the main channel. There's so many people. There's thousands of people on everything. 250 people on the live stream. So I can't get to know everybody. But here, I actually can. It's pretty cool. Jonas is for drama mystery series. I'd recommend watching Watchmen. I already did. I watched it. I didn't review it. I meant to, but I think it ended right at the end of the year when I did Star Wars end of the year list. I didn't, but I watched it. I had fun with it, and fun might not be the best word for it, but I thought it was intriguing. I thought it was worthy of the Watchmen name. But I watched it. Trace Ellison, I've been a patron for 8 months, and the first time being here. Awesome. Very cool. That's cool about it is I can just sit here for an hour, however long it takes to get to everybody's questions, but I can get to everybody, and I can remember people because I'm not overflowed with just so many things, and so I guess get to know people. So thank you very much for supporting me here on Patreon, especially right now. Where everything's so uncertain, that you guys are here supporting me still, that just kind of removes a certain amount of anxiety, that there's a certain stability in that one piece. YouTube's, who knows what's going on, but there's kind of having Patreon is kind of this stable other thing, really does kind of remove anxiety from my life, and I do greatly appreciate it, and I can talk movies with people. Landon Peterson, will you do Hulu recommendations? I'm not sure. Those videos did good. They didn't do fantastic. They didn't. I don't know. There's some weird stuff going on with YouTube that's frustrating. I'm trying to track the analytics, figure out what's going on, but those videos right out of the gate did awesome. And then it's like the YouTube algorithm just like capped them. Like they went, and then they plateaued. Like 3-4 hours in, it just like did the sharp plateau. And all my numbers for the first 4 hours were good. Like click through, people were clicking on the videos when they saw the thumbnail, and then it just plateaued. So I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but so it's on my mind. I've got Amazon Prime, Hulu, Crackle. I've got several of them brainstormed and already written some notes down. So it's on my mind, but I've got a lot of ideas though, so it's tricky. Damon, I think you remember mentioning Seinfeld on your podcast. Do you have any favorite episodes? Yes. Soup Nazi's an obvious one. I haven't done a lot of Seinfeld watching recently, so I don't have a fresh mind on it. Yeah, Soup Nazi is just the one that comes to mind that I have a title for it. If I looked at a list of episode titles, they would refresh my brain. But right now, without a list of titles in front of me, it's not opening the files quick enough. So Soup Nazi is the only one I can mention at the moment. Rich reviews. I watched an HBO documentary called Kill Chain: The Cyber War on American Elections. In the documentary, the director goes to DEF CON, which is a 3-day hacker convention in Las Vegas. Yeah, I would be hyper skeptical of anything that's on a documentary on HBO about elections. Their political agenda is not just on their sleeve; it's on both sleeves and well in front of it. So I would be highly anything where they're trying to do things. They have an agenda. They're not trying to explore truth. They have a decision and they want to let you know why they have that, where they come from. Jason, do you like Hayao Miyazaki films, animated, Spirited Away, Howling Moving Castles, My Neighbor Totoro could easily not be your type of film? Haha. Yeah, they're not my type of film. I haven't watched. I've watched Spirited Away. I don't know if I've watched any of the other ones, but that's when I say movies that are not the way my brain works, like with Kubrick. Spirited Away is not how my brain works. My buddy Andy, who does some of my Marvel videos with me, he's really into anime, and actually, I mean, he's loaned me some stuff. Yeah, I don't know if this is him. Yeah, this is not him. Like anime. He's loaned me a bunch of that stuff. He's come over to watch Spirited Away with me, and we went to go see Penguin Highway a year ago. It's just not the too dreamlike, too metaphoric, and I'm just not like that. I'm a kind of hard, concrete. Even the way I analyze movies, when I talk about stories and structure, it's all concrete type things. It's not metaphors and film metaphors and like, well, this stands for this. I am not wired like that at all. Matt G, is there any way a studio could make anywhere near the amount of money by putting first-run films on streaming outside of just charging insane prices? Well, I mean, even if they charge insane prices, they don't make enough money because, the demand for a movie at $100 is very low. And so the question is, how do you find that right dollar amount? I don't think so. I don't think there's any way to make $100 million from that in the current day and age, or unless you get Netflix to be like, you've already produced it, we'll give you $100 million for it. That seems like premium content. There's potential for that because, they've already spent $175 million to make The Irishman and stuff like that. They're willing to spend very large chunks of change for some of these things. So my studio comes to them and says, hey, we already made this prime content with a big star, high concept, works great on Netflix. Will you buy it? Maybe that'll happen. I wouldn't be too surprised if we get some of that. You think stuff like, I talked about this on the podcast, is stuff like Spiral and these movies that have demand, have an audience, easy to sell, easy to get someone to click and watch it, and you just need Netflix to buy them from a studio, I guess, or however that works. Land of Peace, and why isn't the X-Men movies on Disney Plus? I don't know exactly. I mean, some of they're not as family friendly. They're kind of all over the place. Logan is an R-rated movie with boobs. Days of Future Past has Logan having a one-night stand, and then Hugh Jackman shows his butt, and that's just not the Disney brand. That's not what they do. So I think that's part of it. I don't know why they're not, because they also own Hulu or control of Hulu, so you'd think they'd be like, okay, we'll have Hulu as our more serious, or adult, not serious, more adult brand, so we can show butts and boobs over there, so we'll put it on Hulu. You'd think they would do something like that because they're sitting on content that would be in, or let's say, obvious stuff that I think they should do. April 4th, this Friday, drop New Mutants on Hulu and say, boom, we've got all the X-Men movies there too. Just do that. Like, you just we've got a new X-Men movie plus the whole catalog. It's on Hulu. Sign up for Hulu. Get your, I don't know if you should give the first month away for free if you're going to put all that premium content there, but check it out. Look at all the stuff. Bam. I would think that they'd make a killing on that. That's what I would do. David Passon, why, what would you do with a time machine like the DeLorean? What would I do with it? I don't know. Time depends on how time travel dynamics work with it, but just kind of going to check things out would be interesting. But you can't do. That's the tricky thing if you have a time machine, is that you can't do much because of the butterfly effect. You clap of thunder and the whole world's different. And so we saw that with the movies. So it's a dangerous piece of technology. I don't know what I would do with it. Because it's too dangerous. So I don't know. Ziggler guy, sorry if this was asked in the first AMA since I usually work Saturdays. Have you been watching Clone Wars? How do you feel about it thus far? Yeah, I answer this question every single day because people private message me and everything. I didn't answer it on this live stream, but I answered on the main one. Yeah, I've been watching it. I haven't watched yesterday's episode yet. I'm not a big Clone Wars fan, so I'm just by default don't like when we talk about the Star Wars movies. I'm all in the fanboy. I'm not that with Clone Wars. I don't dislike Clone Wars. I enjoy it enough. I don't mind watching it, especially now that I have a son that's really into it. Like he loves the Clone Wars stuff, and he's all into all the different clones and knows their names, and he's gonna be one of those guys that a lot of you are. But it's not really aimed for people my age. Some people my age get into it, but it's not really aimed for us. And I didn't grow up with it or anything like that. It debuted when I was 28 or something, and so I enjoyed. I'm not really a fan of season 1 because it's all just someone got marooned on a planet. Padme's been kidnapped, and the later seasons got better. I'm watching back through it, and so season 7 naturally I enjoy a lot more than season 1 because it's better storytelling, more interesting stuff with characters as opposed to just we've been shipwrecked. We've got to get out of here. Trace, I think I already saw a video on this, but what's your all-time favorite movie? Yeah, I mean, I did a video on it back in January, and then I do it update it every couple years. I don't remember what I said. It was Die Hard, Terminator 2, something like that. I don't really have a defined favorite. I don't like to do that. So anything in my top 10, they could shuffle at any point in time as to which one is number 1. I'm just wired that way. Some people are wired in a way that, this is my number 1. I'm not like that. I appreciate everything about Die Hard and Terminator 2. I love everything about them. So, I don't really have it, but there's a video that has my top 20 from January. So just a couple months back. Erwin, have you seen Lock and Key? No, I haven't. I haven't seen a trailer for it, so I know very little about it. Lost my place. Oh, so many questions. I gotta speed up. I'm gonna speed up, everybody. So here we go. Procraft. I'm not so. Have you finished Gotham? I have not. I'm like in the middle of season 4. I don't remember how many seasons there are, but I've got like a season and a half left. I believe your opinion video, if it was first episode of season 3. I believe your only video on it was the review of the first episode of season 3. If you ever finished it, would you ever rank the seasons? Or a Patreon video. If I ever finished it, I would probably rank it because there's enough of niche audience that if I did the work to finish it, I would do the video. It's a matter of, at this point in time, I would have to rewatch the whole thing to do it. Because, I started watching whenever, like when you say I've only done one video on it, that's actually not true. I've done, I think, 6 videos on it. I don't know what the exact number is, but they were like my prototype videos. Like before Sean Chandler Talks About on this channel, I had videos where I talked about like same exact stuff, but before it was Sean Chandler Talks About, I think it was called the non-essentials. And so I did some videos. I think I did a couple of Gotham videos back then, and I did a couple when I first started. And so there's like 5 videos on Gotham. So I was watching from episode 1, but I haven't rewatched episode 1 since it debuted, 7 years ago or something like that? So I'd have to rewatch the whole thing. And so if I did that, I would do a video on it. It's kind of like with Clone Wars. I could appreciate it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It doesn't fully work for me. It doesn't suck me in the way it does other people. And there's things about it that really annoyed me. So that was not a quick answer. Like I just said I was going to do quick answers, and I didn't. SB Productions. What movie had the most potential, ended up being just a huge disappointment? I mean, Age of Ultron's a pretty big disappointment with a ton of potential. Matrix sequels, Pirates of the Caribbean sequels. And it's on my list of things to do over the next couple of months. Biggest disappointments. There's just a lot of these sequels that didn't live up to the original, but there's a mythology there to where there was another great story they could tell, and they just didn't. That's where it would be. It would be something like that. So some of those ones like that. Rich Reviews, have an idea of a ranking. Rank the Tyler Perry films. Do you watch the Tyler Perry films? I've never seen a Tyler Perry film, so I mean I've seen him act in movies, but I've never seen a Tyler Perry film as they're known, or Medea. I've never seen any of those. So have you watched those that you want to see that, or are you just making random? I just don't know if you're just making random suggestions or if that's something you're actually interested in. Majestic Demon, I watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit after your recommendation. I still love the movie so much. I think people need to see that film. Yeah, it's a classic of in its own right. Awfully dark. I mean, childhood trauma from some of the times when with the dip and everything, but pretty classic film. JAAX, what's your favorite Fincher film? I guess in Fight Club, I don't have a definitive favorite. Most things I don't really have a definitive favorite. Like when I do my rankings, I rewatch it, so it's like a fresh. I just went through all of it, I experienced all of it. Which one is on top? I don't by default have that for older things, and don't really like to have something like that. Because I just don't think that way, and as I change as a person, my opinions change. Fight Club is the one that I've rewatched the most times. It has the most nostalgia for me. Matt G, I'm so sad. Mom and pop theaters might go out of business. They weren't doing great in the first place. Yeah, it's pretty crazy times. Rich Reviews, another ranking Don Bluth movies. That one could be interesting. Possible ranking Land Before Time films. Never going to happen. I'm never going to watch it. There's like 10 Land Before Time films and nobody's seen all of them. But Don Bluth, that could be interesting. He did some pretty cool stuff back in the day. Majestic Demon, if you remember, did Lion King 2 turn Simba into an unlikable character at all? I've only seen Lion King 2 once. And that's when I did my ranking last summer. So I don't have a deep enough knowledge to be able to give thoughts on it off the cuff. I mean, it was only 6 months ago, but it's a movie I've only seen one time. So I couldn't give you a specific answer to that. David Madison, favorite horror director. Mine is Jordan Peele. I loved Get Out and Us. I don't have one off the top of my head. You know, maybe some of you guys that have heard my opinions, maybe you could tell me who my favorite is, but I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah, there's no one that I'd jump to say this is my favorite in that specific category. I mean, maybe James Wan, but I don't even want to say that. I don't like of directors known for horror, James Wan's done a lot of stuff I really enjoy, but that I don't feel is an answer. I don't comfortable saying that. Hello Johnson, have you ever seen the new Tiger show on Netflix? No, I haven't. Everyone's talking about it though. JAX, have you seen the film Her by Spike Jonze? I haven't actually. It's been on my mind since it came out and everyone was talking about it, and it's still people keep talking about it. I haven't seen it though. Damon, what are 2 major changes you would make to the MCU if you had the opportunity to retcon something? It would probably be something to do with Age of Ultron. Maybe. I think just tighten that movie up, rework it, do whatever they needed to do to make it not such kind of a mess, because there's just a lot of easily the worst of the Avenger movies to me, even though that the moments itself could be fun and the action itself could be cool, but there's just too much going on in that movie. So it's not a specific thing, but just make that movie better. This isn't necessarily important, but you don't set up a love interest for Captain America that's related to Peggy Carter and then have him end up with Peggy Carter, which then makes it by implication, was he macking on his niece, maybe his daughter? Like, we don't know who. Like, what are the implications of that final moment in Endgame? Like, what does that mean for who this girl is kissing in a movie? There's some big questions that are raised because of that, but those aren't specifically important. And then I guess potentially also just a totally different plot for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Just totally different story entirely. Take what they did, toss it out 100%. I would do a different story entirely for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Icevaha, have you watched Marvel's Runaways and Cloak and Dagger? I haven't seen any Cloak and Dagger. Yesterday, actually, I interviewed the guy that scored it, though. The guy that he scored Warrior and a bunch of different stuff, and he's got a new one with Reese Witherspoon. And I got to talk with him. The same webcam I'm talking to you right now, sitting at the same spot. I got to talk to the guy that composed for Cloak and Dagger, but I haven't seen it. So I don't even know what that score is that he did for it. I've seen the first few episodes of Runaways. We enjoyed it enough. Whatever reason, we just didn't keep up with it. Yeah, I get busy, and so if I'm not able to, when there's busy seasons and a lot of releases and a lot of rankings I'm moving towards, I only watch what I need to watch for that ranking. So sometimes I'll start something and then I just get wrapped up in everything I need to watch for the rankings, which isn't right now since there's no new movies coming out, so I get to decide what I do. Jace, besides watching TV shows and movies, what are you doing in quarantine? I'm playing a lot of Uno with my kids, doing cookouts with my kids, water slides in the backyard with my kids. Starting to teach. We cleaned out the whole upstairs of our house. My son and daughter have shared a room and bunk bed for the last 2-ish years, and they're getting old enough that they probably want their own space or 2 different rooms to play in. And so then we'd use my daughter's room as a junk room. It was just filled with junk. We cleared all of that out and built her a bunk bed, or we're in the middle of building her a bunk bed. So right now they have 2 beds that are collapsing, and so they're using it as a fort. So cleared out our garage and a bunch of stuff in there. Teaching the kids on bike rides. So just a lot of stuff with the family is what I'm doing. Majestic Demon. So how many times have your kids made you watch Frozen 2? Have you any feelings about it changed, or you stayed home? So I've seen Frozen 2 probably 10 times since it came out on home video. Full disclosure, I got a copy of it a couple weeks early from a friend. I don't know exactly what he did to get it, but he got a copy of it early on a flash drive, and I was like, I know I'm going to buy this the day it comes out on Blu-ray. I don't feel wrong about this at all. So I started watching it a couple weeks early, maybe more than that, because the baby loves it too. And so Frozen 1, Frozen 2, between the 2 of them, I've probably 30 times this year that I watched a Frozen movie this year. Now, I'm not sitting there by myself, with popcorn doing this. I'm editing a video and it's on the TV. But it wouldn't be surprised if 10 times for Frozen 2 over the last month or so. And probably over this year with Frozen, the first one, because of the baby, probably 30 times I've watched the Frozen movie. Yeah. Oh, and have my feelings on it changed? In my original review of Frozen 2, I said the music wasn't as good or won't stick with you, and I think that's totally false. I was wrong. The soundtrack for the sequel is better. Maybe you don't have anything quite as good as Let It Go, but you don't have the duds like Fixer Upper and We Are Cutting Ice. All of the songs are memorable for Frozen 2. And then, they did have good follow-ups to the fun catchy song, the ballad catchy song. So I think it's just as good. David Patterson, it took me 2 hours, 45 minutes to watch Django Unchained. That sounds about right. JAX, thoughts on Call Me By Your Name? I've never seen it. Doesn't immediately appeal to me. There's nothing in the trailers that made me go, that's a Sean Chandler movie. I like to be entertained, and that's why Star Wars, Mission Impossible movies, I'm a big action franchise guy. Like Call Me by My Name, I don't know what I'm supposed to like about what I'm seeing in the trailer. That's not what hooks me or interests me, and nothing anyone's told me about it either has made me go, oh, that sounds cool. So it's just not even on my radar or something I'd want. Like, there's a certain category of kind of these movies that are in that prestige best of the year stuff that, a few years back, was it the Shoe Cobbler movie, Phantom Thread or something like that? And people are like, oh, he's just great. It's so good and mesmerizing. And there's nothing about that sounds interesting. And there's a side to it that I get annoyed, that it's like, okay, you're a great filmmaker, but it's like you're actively trying to choose the weirdest thing that doesn't connect to a broad audience. There's certain movies that are kind of in that prestige film that I just, that's not who I'm not that person. So, I don't even know too much about it. Gel Productions, what do you think of Damien Chazelle's movies? So Whiplash, I love. It's in my best of the decade. You can check out my best of the decade list. It's in there. La La Land, it was a good musical. There's things I liked about it. Some great acting from Emma Stone. Music's not really that good. Dance numbers are pretty good. I get a little bit annoyed by Hollywood pat themselves on the back movies. That it's a movie all about the sacrifices that Hollywood people make to be famous in Hollywood. And it's like, I chose to sacrifice this relationship to pursue my dreams. And that's, all these people in Hollywood, like that's so true. Like I can connect it. So it feels like one of those movies that I can get a little annoyed by, but it's very well made. I think I gave it like a B+, 8 out of 10 or something like that when it came out. And First Man, I didn't like First Man very much. Just too distant, like took something that seemed like it should be more interesting and compelling. It just felt too emotionally distant to me. Jason, I can't wait for the 1,200 we get from Universal Basic Income. Well, I don't know if I wouldn't call that Universal Basic Income, because it's much more of a relief package. UBI would be much more of what Andrew Yang is proposing. Like every month you get 1,000. Like that's just part of the routine of life, is that you always get that. Whereas this is, man, we're in trouble. Let's give some people some relief. We made it so people can't work and businesses can't be open. Therefore, people can't make money. Well, we better do something about that. That's not. I wouldn't. It's the same idea, and it might turn into a UBI, and depending where things go, and it's the related. But I wouldn't. And I'm nitpicking. I don't know why I'm nitpicking that idea, but I wouldn't call them the same thing. But that's fun for me because you get paid for per kid and per adult on not making under $100,000. So in my household, that's 2 adults and 3 kids. So, woo, I'm getting a nice check soon. Damon, did you watch Queen and Slim? I did not. I didn't get out to watch it. I don't remember if it came out in October or when it came out, but I had been in a pretty busy season of life and I missed it. David Pedersen, I got the DVD for 1917. Very cool. Great film. Alex Wild, did you see Uncut Gems? Yeah, on Patreon I have a review for it, and on I believe it's on Patreon. I have my longer opinions on it, and then I think on Instagram I had a quick review of it. I think that happened. I know it's on Instagram. I don't remember if I put one on Patreon, but yeah, I mean I was very positive on it. Characters weren't entirely likable, very stressful, some weird mixing of the sound at times, but. Interesting little study of a guy who's so self-destructive and trying to juggle so many chainsaws and eventually going to get cut when you do that. So, but I believe on Patreon have my longer thoughts on it. Landon Peterson, are you excited for Defending Jacob Apple TV show? I don't know what that is. Was that the one that's Chris Evans? I think it was mentioned to me recently. I think it's the Chris Evans one that. I think if that's what I'm thinking it is, the guy I do podcast with, Griffin, I think he mentioned trying to get interviews for it. So we might be able to get some interviews with people related to it. So that'd be pretty cool. Majestic Demon, thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road prequel that George Miller's reporting planning? If George Miller can get one more Mad Max movie out before he dies, he's like 75. He's an old guy. So the fact that he's still doing these deals is pretty crazy. But if he can get another Mad Max movie out that keeps that energy going, I'm game for it. What prequel, whatever, spinoff, anything in that world, I'm game. Holly Jensen, technically, would it be great to be a YouTuber right now because everyone has time to watch YouTube? Of course, it's more difficult now when you're a movie YouTuber. It's not even that simple though. You'd think it would be, but you'd think my numbers would go up because I have a big archive of evergreen stuff. All my rankings are still kind of ever fresh. And then I'm putting out new stuff this week, and none of it has taken off. None of it has performed as if everyone is sitting at home. It's not performing like my summer numbers. Like the first hour's getting that, and then it levels off because YouTube's algorithm is still whatever it is. Whatever's been going on with the YouTube algorithm since about August is still just capping everything. It's just killing my numbers. It's frustrating. It's like coming up with ideas that I think are really good. The first hour, it's like, good, I'm getting good first hour numbers, and then it just hits a wall and it plateaus. And I don't like to be someone that when there's a problem to attribute it to and say that, oh no, the algorithm's just killing me, I can't do anything about it. I always want to be, okay, how do I play by the new rules? What do I need to do to change the game? And I haven't figured out what that is. I haven't cracked the code, so I'm experimenting with a bunch of different stuff now to try and work on them. Jail Predictions. Have you ever watched Cobra Kai? Yeah, I've seen both seasons of Cobra Kai. It's a spinoff from Karate Kid. What did you think? The Karate Kid is one of my favorite films of all time. Loved it. Would you recommend? Would recommend checking it out? Yeah, I mean, I watched both seasons when the week they debuted. I really enjoyed it. So much better than you thought it would be. It's not perfect. The last 2 episodes of season 1 have a turn in kind of the characters we've been rooting for, where you go, ooh, I know what you're doing here. I don't think it fully works. And then season 2 likewise had some things where I had some frustrations, but overall really enjoyed it and excited for season 3. Trace, what's your favorite psychological thriller film? I really like Gone Girl. I don't have to. Sometimes it's tricky when you say a genre because it's too big, and I as I kind of keep mentioning, I don't keep like a list of my favorites. I don't know my favorite of a specific genre if I haven't had to choose that for a video or something like that. I like diversity of things, and so it's really tricky when it's just what falls into this bucket. So I'd probably pick something different if I could spend kind of more time thinking about it, but that's one that comes to mind. Craft Ironotzer, will you ever have Chris Stuckman on the podcast? Probably. And I talked about this on the stream I just did on the main one. So I met him 6 months ago at Fantastic Fest. Got to talk with him for like 20 minutes, and he followed me on Twitter, so I can direct message him now. And so I've invited him onto my channel to interview him. Back in December, he said yes, but not now. He was prepping a movie, so he said message him in March. We're in March now. March obviously got a little bit weird for a bunch of reasons. So I hadn't messaged him. And the other reason I hadn't messaged him yet is that I'm having Flickinger on next week. So one of his good friends, having him Monday. I'm going to interview him, and then a couple days after that, the podcast will be out. But so I just wanted to see how that went, and then message Stuckman about how that worked. And hopefully it goes great. And so that if you message just some Flickinger and him and talking about it or whatever, that he'd say positive things. But or maybe that's a reason to message Chris Stuckman before that. But so I'm sure it'll happen. I need to reach out to him again, and that'll probably happen next week. And hopefully it'll be good and happen. Rich reviews. It's spring when people are doing yard work and spread mulch, which is the bane of my existence. You don't like mulch? That's very specific. Matchy, ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm? No, I've never seen a single episode. Jonas Diaz, some other quick recommendations on Netflix. Kingdom, Korean zombie movie, Love, Death Plus Robots, animated shorts, and some Black Mirror style. Majestic Demon, there's a number of X-Men movies on Disney Plus where I am. Movies? There's Disney Plus, or there's X-Men movies on there? I don't know, maybe I missed that. Procraft, the X-Men films are on Disney Plus in Canada. I'm not sure why not in America. Very interesting. I didn't know that they had different libraries. Huh. And maybe I just missed it. Maybe I just haven't looked for it, but I don't think they're on there. Jump Productions, do you watch Doctor Who? No, I've seen Series 1 and I've seen Torchwood Series 3, but it's not something that I've watched much of. David Patterson, are there any movies that you would want to give higher than a 10? No. That concept of giving more than a 10 is kind of nonsense to me. And that's why I don't give a lot of 10s. Like if you look at my channel, I've never given a 10 to a new release. And that's entirely because the whole point of a 10 is this is my favorites of all time. These are the best of all time by my opinion. So then that's why I don't give them out new. I determine something falls into that category once time has passed. And I go, that is a thing that has earned to be in that category. So if I was someone that was just giving out a handful of 10s every year, then you go, okay, well, if Ford vs. Ferrari is a 10 and Die Hard is a 10, Die Hard means a lot more to me and is a little bit more iconic than this thing that I loved called Ford vs. Ferrari, so I guess Die Hard has to be 11. Well, that's a reason not to give out 10s every year, so you say that, in my mind, best of the year is a 9.5, best of all time is a 10. And I don't know what's going to be best of all time after watching it one time. That's how I review things. That's the way I view things. That's also why I don't give a lot of zeros. Like I would never give a 0 to a new. Well, I could get. There's not like when there's movies that are just incompetently made and unwatchable. That's a 0 to me. So I don't give zeros very often because I don't watch 0 level movies. And so like of a big movie put out by a studio, like a 4 is about as bad as it can get because they're going to be competently put together. There's a slickness even though it's not fun to watch. That's a 4. And so that's what my brain works. I think there's a lot of faults in my rating system and overthinking and analyzing it, but that's how that kind of works for me. Harlan Johnson, watching Better Call Saul? Not yet. I keep thinking about starting now that I'm stuck at home. Rich Reviews, thoughts on Anya Taylor-Joy being considered for a Young Furiosa spinoff movie? Seems like she doesn't seem to have the same vibe as Charlize Theron. So it seems like weird casting for me because I'm so used to her playing these kind of cold, stoic characters that just kind of make big eyes and are stunted. I admit, like I haven't seen her. Maybe in Emma, this would be the one where I'd see it where she has a little bit more spunk and has a little bit more Furiosa vibe. So I haven't seen the performance that makes me think that's a good fit. But I don't have a problem with her. David Patterson, there's a spider in my room. David Patterson, rank the Damon Chazelle movies. So of the 3 big ones, first I already talked through my reasoning, but First Man, third, La La Land, second, and by far Whiplash at number 1. David Patterson, watch 12 Angry Men. Man, I'm actually kind of confused where all these people that have interest in 12 Angry Men out of nowhere. Like, I'm confused by, I don't know what that is. I mean, I read the screenplay in high school, and I think I watched it after we read the screenplay, and yeah, it's a classic, it's important, but I don't know specifically why to my audience that would be a movie that people are like, 12 Angry Men. I don't know what that is. Maybe if I rewatched it, it would make me go, oh, that's what it is. But some of that's just confusing to me. Procraft, how violent is Upgrade? Pretty violent. I mean, it's not nonstop violence, but like when someone gets killed, I mean, there's some pretty gnarly stuff. I mean, it's from the screenwriter of Saw, and so he does when stuff happens, it can be pretty vicious. There's some vicious stuff in there. Rich Reviews, Spike Jonze, hers basically an Apple product ad. Maybe. I know what you're saying, but is it though? Landon Patterson, what do you think of the Upgrade ending? I loved it. I mean, if you've seen my reviews, if you've seen me talk about Upgrade at all, I loved what they were able to do. Because I got mad at the movie 10 minutes before it was over. I was like, oh, really? This is where you're going? Man, you screwed up. This is, you didn't stick the landing. Then 8 minutes, I was like, oh man, awesome. Oh, cool. You outsmarted me. And then 3 minutes from the end, I was like, this sucks. Come on, guys. You dropped the ball. And then the last 2 minutes, I was like, you did it. You did. Oh man, you subverted my expectations like back to back to back and absolutely delivered. So I loved the way that it kept messing with me all the way up until the last moment. JAX, Sean, have you seen Her, written directed by Spike Jonze? We've already talked about that one. David Patterson, I'm considering turning the junk room in my house into a home theater. Not a bad idea. Like having a room in your house that's just like dedicated, that you block out all the everything, and it's designed to sit there and watch movies is not a bad idea. I have thoughts on the upcoming Batman and the Flash movies. So Batman, I put a bunch of videos up about this. So I've talked about it on my podcast. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think if you removed all the history with the DCEU, Ben Affleck, and the weirdness of productions, and if all that was off the table and they just hired Matt Reeves to do a Batman movie, I would think that that's a great pairing. With the tone of his Apes movies, that he does spectacle with like Shakespearean drama, the way he structures stories and has real emotion, seems like a great pairing to me. The Flash, man, I don't even know if this thing's going to happen. They've had gone through so many writers and directors. I'll believe it when they say production has started. I don't even keep track of it anymore because they just have so many people that they keep bringing in and then firing them and bringing someone new in. So I don't know if I believe it's going to happen. David Patterson, We Are Cutting is criminally underrated song. I guess. Procraft, if you ever wanted to bring back Stephen Amell for a future crossover or Robert Downey Jr. for a future movie, what do you think about that? As soon as you bring in multiverse and time travel and everything, there's room for them to come back. I think you need to wait a little bit to do it, and you need to have a good reason. I don't really care if they bring Stephen Amell back. I think that I'm just so burned on all that. I just don't care. They just so fumbled so much of that it just doesn't matter to me. Robert Downey Jr., there's plenty of reasons to bring him back that don't feel like stunts. There's things to do that are interesting, that I could see them having some fun with some stuff. I don't want them to bring him back from the dead, or I don't want to like anything like that. I don't want to do too far down that path, but there's context where they could do some stuff that I could be okay with. Majestic Eben, will you be Riders of the Skywalker Blu-ray when it comes out? Of course. Jace, I just watched Groundhog Day and I loved it. What do you think of the Super Bowl ad? I enjoyed it. It's funny. It's nice nostalgia. I'm the target audience for that. I saw Groundhog Day in the theater, and I've been watching the movie for over 25 years, so I had fun with it. As a nice little way to do something that catches my attention, I guess. Zahan Hussan, will you be ranking and reviewing all the Denis Villeneuve movies for the upcoming Dune? I won't review them. Definitely won't do that. I'll very likely rank them. I can't say that's a definite, but it's very likely that I will rank them. I don't have any plans to review them. He's not the right director for me to do that, but yeah. JAX, have you ever seen Before Truly, directed by Richard Linklater? No, No, I haven't seen any of them, actually. I think my wife's seen a few of them, but I haven't seen any of them. Rich Reviews keeps asking me every month to rank them, and it's just not my target audience. Like, that's not what that's not the people who watch my channel. That's not the stuff that they watch. So if I put out that ranking, like the numbers I would get would just be so low. And I like when I do things like that, I lose subscribers. Like, it actually hurts my channel. So I end up having to rent the movies or buy the movies, spend over $10. And then that's also between watching the movies and doing everything, like 15 hours of my life, 15 hours of work in a certain sense. And then I put it out there and it just, it wouldn't get enough views. I would lose money doing it. And that's kind of where some of those ones where I kind of come from. And, I'm just not, that's not the channel that I've kind of developed. Majestic Demon, which musical film is the worst in your opinion? For me, I go with Hairspray. I have no clue. Like, I just don't, whatever would fall into that category, I just wouldn't watch it. I don't watch many musicals, period. So the idea of picking a worst one would have to mean I would watch a bunch of them that fall into the category of worst, and I just don't do that. Rich Reviews, I'm thankful that I have a long-term project that I can work on at home, but at the same time, I don't want what I will do when I finish the project. Or don't know what I'll do when I finish the project. I don't know. I some of that, I always have things I want to work on. So, like, when people are like, I'm so bored, what should I do? What should I watch? Like, that, none of that even resonates with me. I have not had any shortage of moments where I've had things to do, things to create, things I haven't done with my kids. So, like, people that are bored because they're in quarantine, like, I actually don't even resonate at all with that. David Patterson, the quarantine has allowed me to watch both of Alex Garland movies. They are both pretty good, but not great. Rich Reviews, do you think we'll ever do a sequel to Gone Girl? I hope not. I think, I don't know how you recapture that and get the twists and turns a second time. So I think just leaving it with the ambiguity of sorts, I think, is the best idea. David Patterson, well, it's not my favorite. I'll probably rewatch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood before any other Quentin Tarantino film. Landon Peterson, what are your thoughts on Ahsoka and The Mandalorian? Sounds great to me. That's what I love about what they're able to do with The Mandalorian is kind of, they're able to kind of dig into some of this deeper Star Wars mythology, TV show stuff, and give a live action version of it. And I think that gives something a little bit more concrete when you go live action. It feels more tied to the movies because the movies are live action. So, sounds good to me. And, my kids watch Clone Wars. Daughter loves Ahsoka Tano. So, all sounds good. Gamer Max 9000, do you watch Titans, Doom Patrol, or Swamp Thing? I've watched season 1 of Titans. I've seen episode 1 of Doom Patrol, and I haven't watched any of Swamp Thing. Titans, I like, it was back and forth. I'd really like an episode, and then I'd be like, what are they doing for the next one? And I just, the story they picked for this season, I just thought was kind of terrible. Like, if you're trying to get me to excited about a superhero show, I don't know why you would do that plot line. I just don't get what they were going for. Then Doom Patrol, maybe I probably need to give it a little bit more time. I just haven't checked out any Swamp Thing yet. Rich Hughes, how will online schooling work? The teacher gives us assignments and tells us some worksheets and stuff to do, and then we work through them with our kids. My kids are young enough that it's not super elaborate stuff, because it's like, my daughter, here, learn your ABCs, and here, do these sight words, and then son, it's kind of learning to read some things. So it's not advanced schooling because they're in elementary school. Majestic Demon, your Phantom Menace video just dropped. Yep, yes it did. Now I'm terrified. When I put that much time into a video, it's pretty scary. And when it's 30 minutes long and stuff like that, I normally always, there's some mistake, there's something I missed or something, so it's frustrating. Zihan Husani, have you ever watched any movies from Nicholas Winding Refn? I've seen Drive. I think that's the only one I've seen, though. I'm going to be on another guy's channel this week talking about it. Actually, I'm going to rewatch it tonight or tomorrow. What's your favorite Western film and why? I like the spaghetti Westerns, the Sergio Leone, Clint Eastwood films, the Dollars trilogy. All very fond memories of Fistful of Dollars in particular. Just kind of classic Sergio Leone looking at Akira Kurosawa, adapting his stories, and just love the aesthetic, the vibe. Those are the ones that I lean towards. 310 to Yuma, Unforgiven, that stuff. David Patterson, top 5 directors: Steven Spielberg, Nolan, I, as I always keep saying, I don't like to pick favorites off the top of my head because I just think through too many different directions to go. Like Robert Zemeckis, Jon Favreau. I don't know. I like a lot of J.J. Abrams stuff. He hasn't necessarily, he's had dropped some balls, but I like a lot of J.J. Abrams stuff. I guess you got to say the Russos. Yeah, so those are ones that come to mind. Jace, Joker or King of Comedy? I haven't seen King of Comedy soon enough to be able to say to pick one. I'm not like an elitist in my film taste, so I probably would still go with Joker. That's because I'm just not an elitist. So, but I haven't rewatched Joker yet, and I haven't seen King of Comedy in a while. Procraft, unpopular opinion. I think Empire Strikes Back is the second worst live action Star Wars film, and Solo is the best. This is not a joke. Sorry, Sean. You don't have to apologize. Weird opinion, very weird opinion, but I don't even know what to make of that because it's so contrarian by nature that it's confusing. Rich Reviews, thoughts on Tom Brady leaving the Patriots? He's in his 40s, I believe, so cool. I mean, I have no strong thoughts on Tom Brady leaving the... He's an older player, that's what they do. They reach that point in time where they start going to other stuff, so... We're just hearing, all right, dishonor of your family. Oh, you're talking to the Star Wars one. David Patterson, Toy Story 3. Are we at the end of this? Oh, it looks like we're just about the end. David Patterson, Toy Story 3 was the first movie that made me cry because I was 6 or 7 when I watched it. David Patterson, I watched Toy Story 3 after this. Yeah, that ending is, when they're about to get incinerated, that's a tearjerker. Ryan Green, Edgar Wright is an underrated director because of mine. Hasn't made a bad movie in my opinion. Well, he's underrated in the sense that he's not like a big mainstream guy. He's not someone that makes big blockbusters that has a big wide audience. But the people that have seen his movies all rave about his movies. That category of directors are tricky because, like when I hear Edgar Wright is underrated, I think everybody loves Edgar Wright. Then I think, yeah, but he also does. I mean, if you look at it, I think Baby Driver is probably his biggest hit, and that was not like a big hit movie. So he's in this weird category to where everyone that's seen his stuff loves it, but not nearly enough people have seen his stuff. So maybe I'd call him underwatched. That's what I would say. The people have watched it, praise it. Like same with like talk about Warrior. Is it underrated? Well, everyone that I know that's seen it raves about it, but not enough people have seen it to rave about it. JAX, thoughts on Swiss Army Man? I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Obviously know what it is and the farting corpse movie, but I have not actually seen that one. Okay, just checking to make sure that I haven't found out that I messed up my after I drop a movie, I always have to like rush in real quick to make sure that I didn't mess anything up when I posted the video. Like sometimes I post a video and people are like, hey man, you left in a blooper in the first 20 seconds. Like, oh crap. And I have to pull the video, re-edit it, re-render and everything. So have moments like that. If you got any questions, throw them in here real quick. Otherwise I'm going to close out. We're right at an hour. So I can take a few more if you've got them, but otherwise I'll close it out. Procraft, Itonauts, thoughts on Scott Pilgrim versus the World? It's my favorite movie. So I've got a ranking of Edgar Wright films, and I think I talked about Scott Pilgrim versus the World in a video this week, or I've talked about it recently. So it's I've talked about it. I mean, it's a very cool directed film, great style, aesthetic. I think I talked about it on my Netflix video. That might have been on Patreon. I don't remember, but I talked about it this week in a video. Gamer X9000, Titan Season 2 is an improved. Thoughts on Superman and Lois? I'm Arrowverse fanboy. I'm curious because I grew up watching Lois and Clark, which is kind of like a rom-com Superman with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher. So I'm inherently kind of drawn to things like that. So I'm curious, and I've enjoyed Tyler Hoechler's Superman. I think that he's got a good smiley vibe to him. So I'm curious, but I'm just so burned out on Arrowverse that I'm also not that kind of like, I don't know, I want to check it out, but I just don't know. Zayon Hussein, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. I'm very sorry about that. Are you excited about the upcoming Saint Maud? It's unfortunate taken out of the theaters though, but if we get a chance, will you watch it? Actually, it played at Fantastic Fest, the film festival I was at back in September. and I just didn't see it because they literally have like 80 movies play at these deals. And you like most of them, you haven't even seen a trailer for. They don't have a trailer cut for them, so you're just reading like a little blurb, so you don't know which ones are going to be what or interesting. And so like 80 movies play at them. There's only 40 slots, and to fill all 40 slots, you'd have to see 5 movies per day for 8 days straight. And so I missed it. So it played. It's on my radar. I'm not really sure. It kind of depends. I'm rethinking a lot of stuff with my channel in light of everything going on, and I'm just trying to think through what do I need to do to make sure I can get through this phase, and what do I need to do. And so some of that I'm having to take, the risks I'm having to take have to be a little bit more strategic, and movie reviews just don't do all that well for me. And they never have. So I'm trying to think what I want to do with that, and how much I want to move smaller movie reviews to Patreon and Instagram and Facebook as opposed to my main channel, because they just don't do anything. People don't watch them like they watch the other content, unless it's like a big franchise movie. That's just my audience. That's the people that's what they subscribe for. So, and I'm trying to think about Patreon and Instagram as like the deeper stuff. If you like my stuff, you want my thoughts on more things, that's where you kind of go deeper, and YouTube channel's for wide. So I really don't know. Besides the finale, what is your favorite season 9 Office episode? None of them. I hate all of them. I don't hate all of them. I hate a lot of them. I do not rewatch any of them besides the finale. I don't rewatch any episodes from season 8 or season 9 besides the finale. And I'm not joking. Like, I do not rewatch any of them besides the finale. I do not like them. I don't like where they went with things. I only rewatched those seasons one time, and that was for the purpose of doing my ranking of the seasons. I watched it the first time they aired, and I watched it when I ranked the seasons a couple years back, or a year and a half ago. That's it. I do not rewatch those seasons. And when I rewatch them, there's like, oh, that was funny. Okay, that was a good moment. Oh, I forgot about this. But as the story arcs and the concepts for the episodes were terrible, and I just do not rewatch those seasons at all. And I keep rewatching seasons 1 through 4 on loop. I do not watch season 9 or 8 or 9. And I don't rewatch seasons 5, 6, and 7 either, but I rewatch episodes in there on regularly. So there's those favorite episodes that I'll watch from those seasons. Season 9, no. I couldn't tell you in the name of an episode. Maybe it was Arm, one of them, I think. But I just don't care. I don't like it. A lot of it's offensive to me. It's heartbreaking to me to watch. It's literally the show that I rewatch the most, season 1 through 4, and stuff I don't rewatch at all. It's that level of a disconnect. Thank you guys so much for watching, supporting me over here. Like right now in particular, it's a big deal that you're doing this. It is kind of giving this block of support that right now with uncertainty helps a lot. And whereas YouTube numbers have kind of gone down the last couple of months for me, you guys have been rock solid, and if anything, kind of going to go up. And thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate it. Be back next Saturday for a Q&A, and I got a couple of videos planned for this week too. So keep talking movies. Want to find a question? No.